Message from Starfleet Command, top priority.
You are listening to the TrekRanks Podcast, a member of the Tricorder Transmissions Podcast Network. This is episode 127, featuring the top 5 Voyager Underrated. Welcome, Star Trek fans. I am Jim Moorhouse. I am the host of the TrekRanks Podcast, and tonight we're going back to our long-running underrated series by tackling our top 5 Voyager Underrated. So previously, we've done TOS, Enterprise, and Deep Space Nine in our underrated series, and this is the first time we've gone back to it in a span of 73 episodes. So it's been a long time. The last one was DS9 Underrated in episode 64. It doesn't feel that long. So tonight we're going to tackle Voyager Underrated, and I know it's going to be a fun one. And joining us tonight are definitely two very not underrated guests. First up, returning for her 5th appearance on TrekRanks, it is Heather Kirby, co-host of the Promenade Merchants podcast. Heather, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm always excited to talk some Voyager.
I love this. And so, Heather, I had no idea when I asked you to be on. You are our absolutely 100% designated series-specific guest. All of your shows have been, you've done Voyager Guilty Pleasures, Discovery Season 2, Enterprise Guilty Pleasure, and DS9 High Concept. So it's just crazy.
I am. We talked about this last time I was on, that I just ended up doing series-specific ones, but it's okay.
I know we talked about it the last time, and I just keep forgetting. So every time I go to research, and I'm like, God damn it. I forgot again. So next time, it's got to be a wide open topic. All right, our second guest is making his TrekRanks debut, hailing us from Cold Station, Minnesota. It's Patrick Carlin. Welcome, Patrick.
Hey, good to be here.
Great to have you on, Patrick. I know we've talked on Twitter a lot, so excited to finally get you on as a guest. And as our first-time guest, I forgot to prep you, so hopefully you're ready. We'd like to get a quick Trek origin story. So how'd you get into Trek? What's your backstory? And I think you've seen it all, right?
I'm pretty sure I have. There are occasional times I'll see a TOS when I'm like, wait, I watched this one, right? But I guess I'm pretty sure I am. As for my Trek origin story, it's been pretty much my entire life. Some of my earliest memories are of watching the original series with my mom when I was probably 3 or 4 years old on a tiny little black and white TV. And then when I got older, we'd there were those single episode videos that you could buy at Suncoast or whatever. We checked those out from the local library. They had a bunch of those. We checked out all the classic episodes like Amok Time, Trouble with Tribbles, Journey to Babel, all those, and always Teen G. And actually my most vivid Trek memory with her is, I know a lot of people have memories of this one, when we watched Best of Both Worlds and you have the Mr. Worf fire, the big dramatic music sting. My mom's exact words were, I hate when they do that. Yeah, and then I just think how far Trek watching came from the little black and white TV all up until we watched their last episode of Picard together last year. I brought my laptop over to her place. We hooked up to her TV, and actually the last Trek we watched together before she passed was the Picard episode in Nepenthe.
Oh, are you serious,
wow.
man?
Wow.
That's a beautiful episode for something like that, man. Sorry to hear that. That's cool. Yeah. I love that her refrain of a refrain heard across America. I hate when they do that.
Yeah.
so true. And your favorite series is Deep Space Nine too, right? I think.
Voyager, actually. I do see.
Okay, good. All right.
DS9 has the best one, but Voyager is my favorite.
I knew you told me, but I didn't write it down. Awesome. Okay. Let's get into our TrekRanks recalibration and get into this topic.
Let's start with something small, like a recalibration of the EPS manifolds.
As regular listeners will know by now, general order number 1 of the TrekRanks charter is that we love Trek and we love to rank Trek via some deep dive topics just to get the conversation started. And remember, it's not about the ranks. That's just an excuse to talk about Star Trek because, as Mr. Spock himself has said, our show is all about
infinite diversity in infinite combinations, symbolizing the elements that create truth and beauty.
No wrong answers, not about being right or definitive in any way. It's about sharing the things we love about Trek, and we love it all. From TOS to TNG, straight through to Enterprise and the Kelvin timeline, now Discovery, Short Trek, Star Trek Picard, Lower Deck, Star Trek Prodigy. It's all fair game here on the TrekRanks podcast.
Black alert. Black alert.
And a reminder that this episode of TrekRanks is current through 820 episodes of Star Trek, which currently translates through episode 5 of Star Trek Discovery's 4th season, and also through episode 5 of Prodigy's 1st season. And one final reminder that we use episodes as a shorthand term, but the 13 films are, oh, wait, they're not in play tonight. Stop reading that. Okay.
I've boosted power to the communications bandwidth.
We appreciate that, Mr. Kim. And you can find TrekRanks on Subspace at TrekRanks.com. And you can contact me directly on Twitter at TrekRanks or at Enterprise Extra. And you can also call and leave us a message with your own picks at 609-512-LLAP. That's 609-512-5527. All right, Heather and Patrick, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you on Subspace. Heather.
Well, you can get a hold of me primarily on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at nerdygal33. You can also look up my podcast, the Promenade Merchants Podcast. The Twitter handle is at PromTrekPod.
Love Promenade Merchants. And Patrick, how about you on Twitter?
My Twitter handle is PJC4774. That handle may have been inspired by one of my later picks today.
Okay, all right. That's a good tease. 4774. All right. We are ready to activate our level 1 diagnostic to get into today's topic.
Run a level 1 diagnostic series. Come.
So for the underrated shows, for anyone going all the way back to our previous underrated shows of TOS, Enterprise, Deep Space Nine, we always use our patented TrekRanks Matrix. That's the same one we use for our season recap. So instead of just picking 5 episodes, tonight we are picking 5 different categories. So round 5 is going to be our underrated production design element. Could be anything, ship, prop, visual effect, whatever. Round 4 is our underrated performer or creative, someone behind the scenes and that we think is underrated. Round 3 is the Dabo round, wildcard round, anything underrated that you want to highlight in Voyager. Round 2, underrated character. And again, anything you want in terms of narrative, or just it could be a one-off character or maybe a recurring character. And round 1 is clear. It's what we do on TrekRanks. It's your one most underrated Voyager episode ever. That is our breakdown. And we'll see, and we'll have some secondary systems to get some outline picks as well. All right, let's get into our prime directives now.
But what you're proposing is exactly the kind of tampering the Prime Directive prohibits.
Heather, let's start with you. How did you define your prime directive and break down your picks?
Well, it's so much fun because we talked about how I always end up doing these series specific episodes. And it seems like I go a different direction with how I define my picks every time. For this one, I had a little bit of short notice, so I just went with my gut.
Love it.
When it came to picking these, I still think I came up with a really good list. And my one caveat, since I also did the Voyager Guilty Pleasures, was that I didn't choose an episode for any of the categories that was also on my list for that.
Awesome. Yeah, I did the same thing for that as well. So that's good. By the way, next time I ask you, you better remind me. Like, nope. Gotta be a broad topic. All right. Patrick, how about you for breaking down your list? How did you go about it?
Well, a lot of the things I picked are actually things I felt were underrated on Voyager for a long time. It was just a matter of figuring out like which ones which would be the top and which one would be the secondaries. So
got it. Yeah, so locking in my prime directive, it was harder than I thought. Mostly, I just love Voyager so much. So every time I came up with a pick, I'm like, no, I can't include that. That's not underrated. That's awesome. People love that. So it was I was having trouble finding stuff that I really felt were elements that people overlooked, which is what I always try to do with the underrated topic. So just stuff that should be more appreciated than generally I think it is. So I had a tough time, but when I finally came up with a list, I was feeling good about it. And then I remembered, I need to cross-check it against the Voyager High Concept and Voyager Guilty Pleasures, just to make sure I'm not just using the same thing over and over again. So that narrowed it down a little bit more for me. And before we jump into the order of things, I want to give. So here's a quick update on where we have 3 ongoing series: the guilty pleasure episodes, the high concept episodes, and underrated. And we've been doing those for just basically 90s era Trek. So TOS, TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise. So after this episode, we will have completed all 3 topics for Enterprise and Voyager. And we have exactly 1 topic left in the other 3 series. So we have underrated TNG, we have guilty pleasures with Deep Space Nine, and we've got high concept with TOS. So Heather, you'll be on none of those shows. So that's the update on those series. And it's pretty cool that we're winding those down, because it's been we started those pretty early, like with our 9th episode maybe. Okay, that's it. First Connection. Let's get into the new order of things.
It'll be alphas like us that determine the future of this quadrant. That will be the new order of things.
Thank you, First Cadecathon. As always, a quick reminder how we're going to go through the order of things. First, everyone will tease their pick with a 5-word summary and a hashtag, and then we'll each reveal our top 5 Voyager underrated pick and the reasons for highlighting it and one episode that best reflects it. And at the end, we'll ask everyone for a few secondary system selections for the picks that just missed our list. And as always, if we have any duplicate picks, make sure you listen for the Defiant Torpedoes. Okay, Heather, let's start with you. What's your number 5 pick for your Voyager underrated? This is the production element round.
Okay, number 5. 5 words, smarter than your average starship. Hashtag as infallible as a human. It is the bioneural gel packs.
Oh my God, that's a fantastic pick. So underrated.
So the episode I picked was season 1, episode 15, Learning Curve.
Yep.
Get the cheese to sick bay. But yeah, no, I love the concept of the bioneural gel packs. And it's something that just does still get brought up throughout the series. But it's kind of like you forget that it's there and then they bring it up again. But I think honestly, like to have that kind of circuitry in making the ship smarter and faster and better was really an advantage to them and how they managed to survive in the Delta Quadrant. And I think it really deserves some props for that.
I love that. I love how every show has something they try to introduce that's a little bit different. And that was one of those cool things at the beginning of Voyager. It's like, oh, okay, this is new, different. And by the way, it makes sense. That seems like something that would happen in the distant future, that you would have that type of thing to connect circuits and relay power and all the different things that it does.
The spores must have traveled through that intake and then into the ventilation system,
where they were disseminated throughout the ship, subsequently infecting the bioneural circuitry.
I feel awful about this. I assure you I had no idea.
More gel packs must be down. If this is getting to the environmental systems, we may be in more trouble than we thought. Neelix, this wasn't your fault. The important thing is that we found the source. Get the cheese to sickbay. The doctor should look at it as soon as possible.
Yes, and I do feel like every time it, not that maybe they forgot it or they didn't use it, but every time it came up, it was exciting. It was like, oh yeah, that's a thing. Those things, they look cool. They're just very cool. Patrick, what's your take on the bioneural gel bags?
Well, I've always thought they were cool. Actually, something just occurred to me too. Always saying, that the brain is the fastest, is the fastest computer known. And I was just a couple days ago, I just watched the Enterprise episode Dead Stop. So that kind of ties into that as well, using organic tissue to speed up computer response time as well.
Yeah, those are literal bioneural jetpacks, gel packs. That's a fantastic start. I love this pick. I did not think of it. Patrick, how about you? What's your production element here in round 5?
Okay, so 5 words, 24th century hot rod, hashtag computer remove dynametric tail fins of the Delta Flyer.
Spectacular.
I love that ship. It's sleek, it's cool, just everything about it I just like. And like Tom installed, the manual controls. I know that Tuvok thought were ridiculous, whatever, but I just always thought it was a cool ship.
It was such a great addition, especially when my favorite part about the Delta Flyer is always the Captain Proton elements with the knobs and levers. I just think that was a real smart throwback to kind of make it different and a little bit more tangible just to see him operating controls. Well, did you pick an episode?
Oh yeah, the episode from the last season. Also, an episode I've always thought was underrated. The episode Drive, where they into space race. I love that one. It's also one thing I've always thought about that episode too. It kind of gives the aspect of Voyager like as a community, because like there are those parts when Neelix is giving the race updates. First she's in the Astrometrics lab doing that, and then telling there's a crowd of like 20 people all gathered in there watching, and then the next time he does it, cuts around the ship to various people listening to it. So yeah, so it's been a fun episode to me.
I love when Janeway's just like, lighten up, Tuvok. We're getting in this race.
Exactly. Yeah.
That was so great. Heather, what's your take on Drive and the Delta Flyer? That's an awesome pick.
Well, the thing I love most about the Delta Flyer is that they built it themselves, and it's a concept that like it makes sense that they would do that. Like they're stuck in a far off quadrant. They don't have access to the regular resources, so they find the resources to build it themselves. I like the idea of that. So that's the funnest thing I like about the Delta Flyer.
Yeah, that's an underrated episode too. Extreme Risk, when they build it, super cool.
Yeah.
Love it.
I like that one.
Okay. Drive just might come up again. We'll see. Okay.
Ooh.
Here is my production element. It's coming up right now. Sorry, I forgot. I knew I had it somewhere. 5 words and a hashtag. Snazzy alternative duds deserve credit. Hashtag let's go spelunking. And this is Voyager's secondary uniforms. And we see a lot of them. Designed by Bob Blackman, the costume designer. So I was going to pick Drive, but I ended up going with Blood Fever because my favorite of all the alternative uniforms are the Blood Fever spelunking. They call them the excursion uniforms when they go down on the planet to go into the cave. So that's one. And then there's another version is in Learning Curve. Oh, that was your pick.
Yeah,
that was your pick. So the gray training uniforms, and then your pick was Drive, and those are the piloting. So there's 3 different ones: the piloting shuttles in space. This is fantastic. How could this be?
Look how that all came together.
So I have Blood Fever, you have Learning Curve, and Patrick had Drive. And those flight suits,
nice.
They're so sharp. They just look so good. I love those uniforms. What's your take on Patrick?
Always thought they were cool. Yeah, on the spelunking ones and the workout ones, it has like the little stripe across it showing what department is in too. So got to have that on the uniforms too.
Yeah, the training uniforms had that too, but they're kind of understated. The spelunking ones were a little bit more tactile. Heather, what's your take?
Yeah, I love the secondary uniforms because they're just something unique and different. I mean, you always see the same colors and uniforms throughout the ship in every single episode. And so when you see something different, it's like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was clever the way they didn't go crazy with them, but that they integrated them, knowing that they kind of had to be in the same uniform since they were so far away from home and not like restocking. But anyway, that always happens on TrekRanks. How does that? That's so cool. That's Learning Curve, Drive, and Blood Fever. Fantastic. All right, let's go to round 4 and get our underrated actor, performer, creative round. Heather, what do you got?
Okay, well, I'm going to start this out by saying it is a creative person that I chose.
Love it.
So the 5 words, the woman behind the captain, hashtag story makes the character. It is Jerry Taylor.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a good pick.
Great pick.
So she doesn't, underrated, whatever you want to say, but she just, no matter what level of credit she gets, she deserves more.
Yeah.
She's
agreed. 100%
yeah.
Agreed.
I mean, I just think like Jerry Taylor is a huge factor in making Janeway who she is in this show. And like, if she wouldn't have been a part of it, it would have been an entirely different show. And so she deserves all the credit in the world for that for me. And the episode I chose was one that she solo wrote herself, which was season 2, episode 25, Resolutions.
Oh, awesome. That's a good one for that. I was going to mention, of course, because she wrote 2 of my favorite novels, ones that I really, I'm not a huge novel reader. I've probably read 50 or 60. But the 2 that I probably consider the most canon are the ones Jerry Taylor wrote, Pathways and Mosaic.
Yes, I love Mosaic.
Part of Janeway's backstory and the Voyager backstory. I love those books. I love Resolutions. Awesome. Jerry Taylor is just a legend, and I love talking about her. She deserves so much credit. What a place she holds in the creation of Trek in the 90s. Patrick, what's your take on Jerry Taylor?
You guys all both summed it up quite well. I mean, she made Voyager and Janeway what they were, and excellent episode pick there too. Resolutions #JC forever. I'm a huge shipper for them, so you couldn't have picked a better one for that too.
You and everyone else. I love it.
That's right.
Okay. I will not mention C7. I love it all. I ship everybody. But my challenge is my problem is I ship everybody. Every time I see two people together, I'm like, that's great. Happy. Okay. Patrick, how about you? Who's your actor, creator, performer?
Okay, well, 5 words, started in blue, then gold, #. Not going to let a little thing like that stop her from getting even. Martha Hackett as Seska. Yeah, Seska is my favorite Voyager villain. Just like every time she's on screen, she just eats it up. She's just so great. And for the episode, I picked, the little hint I dropped earlier about my Twitter handle from the episode Worst Case Scenario, because that was Tuvok's access code in that episode, Tuvok 4774.
Oh my God, that's a legendary Twitter handle now. That's so good.
Yeah, and like that episode for me, that is just Seska at her prime. She's just like, so over the top, eating it up in everything she does. She's just I love her. And also in that episode, Tom and Tuvok stuck together on the holodeck, snarking at each other as they're trying to escape her, and it's just so great. Everything about that episode too, I just love.
What are we doing in the brig? I have no idea. We haven't given the computer instructions to create a location yet.
Hello, Tuvok. I've been expecting you. If you can see me, you've obviously reopened the narrative parameters file of the tactical scenario you've been working on.
How do you know that? You're a hologram.
That's right. A holographic representation of Seska, one of the Maquis shipmates you betrayed. I would have thought all that time you spent spying on us might have given you a little more insight into the Maquis. But after looking over what you've already written, I can see you need a little help. So I've created this representation of myself to guide you through the rest of the program.
There is no more program.
There is now. I finished writing it for you, with a few revisions of my own.
Revisions?
To start with, the holodeck is now sealed. Your friends will find it very difficult to get you out of here. And the safety protocols are off, which means if I shoot you, and I am going to shoot you, you'll die. But not just yet. You've got 10 seconds to run.
It's all-time great Trek, and I think it's top 5 on my Voyager Trek ranks. But the thing I love about this pick is that your pick, Seska, would be like, and again, this Trek ranks, you can cheat, you can break rules all you want. Seska would be hard to qualify as underrated because people love Seska. But Martha Hackett is... I don't think that character, Martha Hackett makes that character she's an incredible actor.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think in the hands of somebody else, it's a different type of character or role.
In this case, I think more underrated is she should have been on the show a lot more than she was.
For sure. I mean, listen,
I think overall she was only maybe like a dozen episodes, something like that. So
I do appreciate the fact though that she started as a regular and they built, again, it's serialized versus these standalone, episodes, but they did that right from the beginning. She was right there. And it's like all of a sudden, oh wait, this actor, this Maquis is a Cardassian. It was really well done. Heather, what's your take on Martha Hackett as Seska?
Oh, I think it's a wonderful pick. I think the character of Seska in general is probably like underrated as a villain as a whole, but amongst all of Trek, but amongst Voyager fans, like everybody loves Seska. But Martha Hackett is a definitely great pick as an underrated performer because she brings so much to that role and just, like you said, chews it up in every single scene, and it's a joy to watch.
She is impressive. All right. We could talk about her all day, too, this round. All right. Good job. Let's go to my number 4 pick. Mine is also a creative. So 5 words and a hashtag, 47 originator deserves more credit. Hashtag Pomona College Scribe. And this is the writer Joe Menosky, who is on the surface. I know that Joe Menosky is pretty well known in Trek writing circles. He's right there, pretty much atop that tier of creatives beneath like Ron Moore and Brandon Varga and Rick Berman. But I think he fits this category as underrated in Voyager because I don't think I realized how prolific he was writing for Voyager. And that was his main, that was where the bulk of his episodes. So he wrote like 57 episodes. He was a part of the writing staff, writing credit on 57 episodes of Star Trek. And 36 of those were with Voyager. So well over half of his credit. And I'm just going to rattle off some of these episodes that he had a writing credit on. Future's End, Distant Origin, Scorpion, Year of Hell, The Killing Game, Living Witness, Night, Timeless, Latent Image, Equinox, Blink of an Eye, Tinker Tenor, Dr. Spy, Muse, all of those. It's crazy. He had a writing credit on more episodes of Voyager than anybody than Brandon Braga. And so the episode I chose, and this is an underrated episode that I originally didn't like, and now the more I see it, the more I love this episode. I chose Alter Ego because I was really close to picking it as my underrated episode, but in the end, it was my toughest cut. It gives me a chance to talk about how creepy and weird and unsettling this episode is. But it's also kind of weirdly soothing, and I just think it's super underrated, and I've grown to love it. That's the one, by the way, where there's like an alien on a space station that's monitoring some nebula, and she's all alone, and she poses as a hologram, and Harry falls in love with her. And that's like the first half of the episode. You're like, what is that's weird. And then Tuvok kind of falls in love with her, and then finds out it's actually a real person, and she's on this ship, and they connect, and it's just really cool. And my hashtag, by the way, another thing that he's underrated for, he is the originator of the number 47 in pop culture. He gets all that credit. Now, he wasn't the first person to use 47, but he's the one that brought it to Trek. He's the one that started dropping it into TNG and other series, and that had it explode across all of sci-fi. 47 is a thing that came from Pomona College, where he went to school, and some theorists decided that they think 47 was the most common number to randomly show up in the universe. Anyway, Patrick, what's your take on Joe Menosky?
Well, I had known about him putting 47 in there, but I'd never known the exact origin of why. So thanks for answering that question. Yeah. But over the list of episodes you mentioned there might be some of those coming up on my list.
Well, okay, I love it. Heather, Joe Menosky, what's your take?
Oh, I think it's a wonderful pick. Like those episodes you listed off are some of the greatest episodes of Voyager. Sure. And I didn't even know off the top of my head that he had writing credits on those. So that right there tells you he's underrated, and he deserves the credit here. Yeah,
it's just kind of like with Jerry Taylor. However much credit you give him, he deserves more. So thus underrated. Yep. Okay, let's go to the soup round, which is actually the Dabo round. It's our wild card round. Heather, what do you got?
And now, as I'm sure that somebody out there has said, it's time to pay for the soup.
Okay, so 5 words more important than normal to Voyager. Hashtag home away from home. It is the use of the holodeck.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah.
So I like this just really came to me that I think holodeck episodes, most people consider them as just like fun breaks, But with Voyager, like it was their one connection to the Alpha Quadrant, to home, to things that were familiar to them. So in the series, and that gets kind of underrated when you look at holodeck episodes in general, because you just think they're kind of silly and fun. But some of these holodeck things are pretty important to the crew, that like this is their outlet. So
I was going to say, how smart. I mean, because it really is I never thought about that, but it's their connection to home and the Alpha Quadrant. Yeah. It's used much more as a recreational way, which of course, I guess you could say that for all Trek, but for them, it's important in that way. And I have absolutely never thought of that connection, which makes it underrated. I love it. What episode did you pick?
So the episode I picked was The Cloud from season 1. It's actually the first episode that you see them use the holodeck.
Yep.
But it's also the first episode where you see a whole bunch of characters hanging out on the holodeck together in Trek. And like, especially right at the very end when Kim brings Janeway to Sandrine.
Yep.
And they all get kind of worried and she just joins in because like, I think that is a prime example of what I'm trying to show with this pick, like how much they really need the togetherness and that connection there.
Captain.
What is it, Ensign?
Well, I don't mean to be out of place, but if you'd care to join us, you'd be welcome.
Join you where? As you were. Well, this is remarkable. Mr. Kim tells me this is your doing, Mr. Paris.
Yeah, it's just a little diversion, Captain.
Yeah, and first time you really see a crew just hanging out on the holodeck. That's amazing. Patrick, what's your take on this?
Well, I fully agree, but yeah, the holodeck stuff on Voyager, I've always enjoyed. But yeah, I never thought of that as a connection of like their way of feeling closer to home. Yeah, and that makes complete sense. But like I said, there are some holodeck episodes of Voyager that are some of my favorites, and maybe some coming up later. Maybe some.
That's an awesome pick, Heather. Incredible. Maybe I'm going to keep you on these series specific ones. Okay, let's go to Patrick. What's your Davo wildcard round pick?
Okay, so for this, I have 5 words and I have 2 hashtags for it. 5 words, often amused by human behavior. Hashtag fetid mud pits of Palomar, and there is no one on Deck 9, Section 12 who doesn't know. It's the humor of Voyager. Something I've long felt about Voyager is that is that of the main Trek, they use humor the best. I mean, now we have Lower Decks, of course, which is a strictly comedy show, but outside of that, I've often felt that they use humor the best. I mean, like, I'll expect to have like the straight funny episodes. Like I had to pick 2 for this one. I couldn't narrow it down to 1. We got Bride of Chaotica and Tinker Tenor Dr. Spy, which are just 2 of my absolute favorites. Anytime I need a mood boost, I'll put one of those on. But then there are also, like, even in the midst of like serious episodes, we'll sprinkle in a little funny moment, like Basics Part 1, when they're in the big battle with the Kazon. The Doctor's all nervous about thing they're going to do, project the Telexian ships out into space, and then he ends up getting projected out into space right along with them. And then when he's brought back, he says, "I told you we should have done one more system check." And she just gives him a dirty look. And then there's the persistence of vision when Harry and Bala are trying to project him in engineering, and he ends up like 2 inches high, and then you get that great visual of Janeway looming over the tiny Doctor as he orders her to the holodeck to chill out. But probably one of my favorites though is in the Killing Game Part 2, when the Doctor and Neelix as a Klingon are on the holodeck.
Our plan is to penetrate the enemy's position, cut his forces in half.
And a very good plan it is. Best of luck with it.
You will lead us into battle, great warrior.
Maybe I'll just watch from here. Try to offer up some pointers as things develop.
Stoker! Lead the attack, or die here by my hand.
You heard him. Don't argue with the man, run along. I'll reattach any severed limbs, just don't misplace them.
You! Cover our flank! Kapla!
Kapla?
Tally-ho.
Tally-ho.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It just kills me every single time I watch that episode.
There's so much great humor. It's understated humor in Voyager. I love this pick. When you say Killing Game, what I always think of is right at the end when they're kind of setting up their army camp and they're going to have the last fight, and there's some soldiers running past Paris, and he just gets into the mode of "get the lead out of your pants," and he just laughs and he laughs to himself, and I just love it because he's embracing the era. So good. Heather, what's your take on the humor of Voyager? So good.
Like, that's a perfect pick too.
It really is.
It is really underrated, and a lot of credit to the actors too, who just have great comedic timing. And like when you have people like Robert Picardo and Ethan Phillips and Robert Duncan McNeil, like all on the same show, their comedic timing is just perfect. And even like the subtle humor, like I think that's something that Tuvok does really well, is just like subtle bits of humor thrown in there where it's not even meant to be funny, but because Tuvok's doing it, it's hilarious.
Yep.
So yeah, good.
Yeah, the understated element of it is the key. So okay, let's close out the Dabo round with my pick. I'm cheating on this one, but it's a really good cheat. I'm really glad I thought of this. 5 words and a hashtag. Outthink the Trek ranks. Hashtag outthink the think tank. And this one is, my episode is Think Tank. And my pick is that I was so focused on Think Tank, as I wanted to pick Think Tank as the production element, the actor, the character, the episode, all of these things were Think Tank was in the running for all of it. And I ended up saying, what I'm going to do is just pick all of it inside the Dabo round. So my episode is Think Tank, and my production design is all the creative alien design, from Bevox to the Phenom who couldn't be translated, the AI, the jellyfish, the bioplasmic life form. The actor is Jason Alexander. Holy crap. I love Seinfeld. I would have never thought Jason Alexander. He is so understated and so creepy. I just enthralled by his performance every time. The character is Bevox, the bioplasmic life form who's floating around and is the founder of the think tanks. It's such a cool concept. And the episode is Think Tank from Michael Taylor, and the stories Rick Berman and Brandon Braga. It's just a really, really, really cool tone and really deliberate, slow pacing. And there's a very sparse score on this episode. Not a lot of music. I love this episode. It's underrated. And Think Tank all across the board is my pick. Heather, what's your take on Think Tank?
It's a good pick. And yeah, you cover pretty much about everything in the episode. So I don't know what else I can say about it. It's a really unique and interesting and underrated episode. And yeah,
it's a cool cat and mouse.
Yeah,
just slow paced. I love it. Patrick, how about you on Think Tank?
I like that episode a lot. And on the line of cheating, I love what Seven says too. Cheating is often more efficient.
That is true. Oh, that's right.
And also, if I remember right, the AI thing that we see on the Think Tank ship is later on the Dead Stop station on that episode of Enterprise.
Yep, it's on Dead Stop. It's in a lot of, it's reused in a lot of spots. So did she say that cheating line in Think Tank when Janeway's trying to do that puzzle? I think so. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, because she scanned the device, and then Tom says, "Well, Seven, that's cheating." It's like, well, cheating is often more efficient.
I love it. Brilliant. All right. Okay, let's go to round 2. Heather, who's your character?
Okay, so I went deep cut on this.
Oh, I love it.
5 words: symbol of the Voyager family. Hashtag first mother on board. It is Ensign Samantha Wildcard.
Oh, that's excellent. Cool deep cut, and she's awesome.
Yeah. So the episode I chose was Deadlock, when she actually gives birth to Naomi. Yeah. I think that her character in the episode, like on their ship, like Naomi actually died, and so the baby that they brought over from the other ship wasn't actually the one that was born to her, but it was still her baby too. So I think she's very much the mother figure of the ship, and like a representation of what Voyager is as a family. Like, this is the actual family unit on Voyager, the first one, so I think she's definitely underrated in that way.
I love this pick. Every time she shows up, it feels just more authentic. The ship is deeper than what, just the main characters. They really use her well. Naomi's awesome. The actor Nancy Howard's really good in this role. I know she's done some other like writing and directing in her career, but she's just great. I love her. I love when she shows up. And I love her in Once Upon a Time when she's trying to calm when she's that's the one where she's in the accident in the Delta Flyer. I just feel so connected to her. There's so much emotion in that episode where Neelix is dealing with Naomi maybe losing a parent. It's just so good. She's a great character, and it's an awesome pick. Patrick, what's your take?
Well, another character who we didn't see nearly enough, who would have seen her a lot more. And actually, you're mentioning the episode Once Upon a Time. I did a Voyager rewatch a couple months ago, and that was actually an episode I'd always kind of overlooked. But yeah, I definitely came to see it as better this go around, especially that scene you just mentioned when she was recording the message for Naomi. That was really, really good.
Yeah, you kind of have to sometimes. I mean, the Flotter and Treva stuff is fun, maybe not necessarily for 55-year-old me, but but when you really, it's a great episode because of that emotion. It's really cool. Awesome pick. I love it. All right, Patrick, who is your character in your round 2 pick?
Okay, so 5 words. Not your token Maquis officer. Hashtag 2 crews, Maquis and Starfleet are going to become one. It's Chakotay.
Okay. I thought about maybe picking Chakotay. I'm with you. I think he's underrated. I love it. Hit it.
Yeah, he's definitely a character who just doesn't get enough love and appreciation. I mean, some people say, "Oh, he's boring, he's stiff, blah blah blah." But you look at the episodes when they focus on him, and he kills it every time. I mean, once again I had to pick 2 episodes for this one because these 2 I really figure he's at his top. Just an Origin from season 3 and Shattered from season 7. That's one of my absolute favorite episodes of the whole series.
Distant Origin is a good pick for him too.
Yeah,
you don't think of that as a Chakotay episode, but he's really good in that.
Like, especially that end speech he gives to Mr. Odala near the end.
Yeah,
so good. And also, I just mentioned I did a Voyager rewatch a few months ago, and when I got to the episode Innocence, there was this scene of him and Janeway that jumped out to me.
Ooh.
When he was mentioning his first mission, when he was the ship he was on was to make this first contact mission, and he wanted to be on, so he pestered the captain to let him be on the mission. He said everything he could about them, and then when they go to meet the aliens, he does the traditional greeting, only to find out he did it wrong, and in doing so he accidentally propositioned the ambassador. So, and at that moment I had to pause. I was laughing so hard and realizing that is a Lower Decks plot right there. That is totally something Boimler would do. So that started me thinking, might young Chakotay and Starfleet have been a bit like Boimler? Yeah.
I like it. Well, listen, I'm always a fan of the strong silent type, and I think Chakotay's that type, and I think he's a cool character. I've always connected with him. I love it. Heather, what's your take on Chakotay?
Yeah,
polarizing.
I had a feeling Chakotay would get mentioned in this category. He's definitely underrated in the discussion when we talk about first officers amongst Star Trek series. He's polarizing. Is the word for
so he's not your favorite. I had no idea going in because there's people who just don't like Chakotay, but that's okay.
Well,
that's
I mean it's one of those things. I don't hate Chakotay. I just if I had to choose, I wouldn't pick Chakotay.
Yeah, I got you. Listen, he's polarizing. A lot of that. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why. Someday we'll do a Chakotay episode and we will celebrate him even through all the challenges that the character had. So I love it. And he's coming back, by the way. By the time you hear this, who knows?
I'm so excited for that.
Who knows? He'll be back soon on Prodigy. Okay, let's go to my character pick. So I did this recently on Delta Quadrant Species. I talked about the Kazon, how much I love them. And I had a fun time doing that because I know people just don't like the Kazon. So I'm kind of going to do it again right now. 5 words and a hashtag. Listen to your woman, Kola. Another 5 words. You'll address me as Maj. Hashtag yes, Maj. Yes, Maj. Yes, Maj. That is Kola and Seska. And I absolutely love Maj Kola. I think he's a great villain. I think he's totally underrated. Kazon Nistrom, portrayed by Anthony DeLongis. He only made 5 appearances, but here's the episodes he was in. State of Flux, Maneuvers, Alliances, and Basics Part 1 and 2. Those are 5 great episodes of Voyager. I picked Maneuvers because I love his desperation in this episode when Chakotay is challenging him by basically just going after his very fragile masculinity on Kola. I mean, by the way, Kola sucks. I just like the character as a foil. And Chakotay's really rubbing his face in it that Seska's calling the shots and that he's the puppet. And he realizes it, but he's still trying to be a tough guy. And you can see how pathetic he is when he finds out that Seska's been contacting other sects under his names, and he's spouting off. And just, I don't know. I think he's a fun villain. I love when Janeway says, "I don't like bullies. I don't like you." And when the next time she sees him, she's like, "I remember you." It's just so good. Kola is interesting, and I'm picking him. Heather, what's your take on Maj Kola?
I think like villains like Maj Kola and the Kazon, like the more you hate them is like the sign of how good they really are, So if you sit there and go, "Oh, that guy is ridiculous," it's because he's actually a really good character. So yeah.
Okay, I love
pick.
that. Thanks for that support. Patrick, what's your take on Maj Kola?
I'm 100% with you. I was like the Kazon's villains, and the stuff with Kola and Seska was always great. Especially that scene you mentioned when Chakotay is just rubbing it in every way possible to him. I love that scene. So
it really is good. I mean, you can say he sucks, I get it, but he's a fun foil for Janeway and Chakotay and even Seska, because she's just playing him all the time. The guy's a clown. Yeah. It's good. I mean, he's in so over his head. Even when he gets the ship in basics, he's always in over his head. Okay, let's go to round one and find out our underrated episodes. Heather, what's your number one pick?
Okay, so I have a history of picking really dark episodes on TrekRanks.
Yep.
And I kind of went there here. 5 words. Words alone cannot convey the suffering. # make the truth your own. It is season 6, episode 14, Memorial.
Oh, wow. Such a good pick.
Dang.
This would fall in that category for me of like coming up with Memorial and then be like, no, I can't pick that. It's too good. It's too awesome. But it's right. It's underappreciated.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's such a good episode.
It's an incredible episode. And I mean, it's so dark and it's hard to watch, kind of like watching them deal with the memories of that massacre and everything. But I think the lesson at the end, especially when half of them want to destroy it, and then Janeway and Neelix in particular, who are adamant about making sure it stays working. So they deserve to be remembered. I think that's the ultimate lesson at the end.
Even if we do shut down the transmitter, I'm afraid your memories of the massacre are permanent.
But we'll prevent this from happening to other passing ships. If we do that, all record of what happened here would be lost.
The monument will still be here.
But that doesn't really tell the story. Someone put a lot of time and care into building that transmitter. We can't just deactivate it. We don't have the right.
Did they have the right to force us to relive all that?
They wanted others to know what it was like in the hopes that nothing like it would happen again.
Why should anyone have to experience an atrocity they didn't commit?
Because that's how you learn not to make the same mistake. If we destroy the evidence, we're no better than Sopra.
Maybe he had a point. It wasn't our fault.
Given the danger involved, it's only logical.
This isn't about logic. It's about remembering.
Some things are best forgotten.
Not this.
I love that defense. of that Neelix, and just to say it should be on at all times.
Yeah.
So it's just to remind people. So I think I had that in my I had that in my top 5 Neelix moments episodes when we did that episode. So Patrick, what's your take on Memorial?
Well, that's another episode that I'd always somewhat not really overlooked, but I hadn't really appreciated much up until, like I said, again, my recent rewatch. And also, a little side note, sometimes when I'm driving, I have to go to my dad and brother's place before work. There's a cemetery I drive by. I see a tower monolith thing that actually looks a lot like the one we see.
Oh, really?
So it always makes me think of that.
It's unreal. Do you know what the memorial is for?
No. It's just a cemetery that I drive by on my way there.
Okay, so we know what it's for. It's a tombstone.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to your pick, Patrick. What's your number one underrated episode?
All right, we got 5 words. The Gleaming Cities of Earth, #Voyager Theater. It's Muse from season 6.
Yes, this is such a good pick. So underrated. I would have probably picked it if I hadn't already picked it in my previous Voyager Guilty Pleasures. And I think I picked this for High Concept. Yeah. Sorry, go Patrick. This is a great pick.
Yeah, it's always been an episode that I've enjoyed. I mean, you get to see Voyager through the lens of a less advanced culture, and then the messages of what that guy is trying to do through his play. I mean, it's as pure Star Trek as you can get. I mean, like when he finally realizes what he has to do, and that scene to the end with B'Elanna, it's like in words that no one will fail to understand. And then that ending speech: Voyager will continue on your journey to the gleaming cities of Earth, where peace reigns and hatred has no home. It just gets me every time.
And Voyager will continue on her journey to the gleaming cities of Earth, where peace reigns and hatred has no home.
It's just such an amazingly well done episode. It's pure Star Trek.
Yeah, and it's so meta as well. It's so smartly meta, like basically telling a Star Trek story inside a Star Trek story, and the fans are there as well. You're trying to please them, but you've got to be true to your art. It's just absolutely genius.
Like with the meta stuff, you got like that guy talking about his betrayal of Vulcans. Like I've heard people making the argument in real life, and then there's that one, and then there's the older actor. Used to not need all those tricks for the stories and so on and so forth.
Right. Yeah, it's and Joe Menosky on that writing team. So
that's when I mentioned that's when I was hinting for you.
So Heather, what's your take on Muse, another classic?
So the one thing that sticks in my head about Muse is that it's B'Elanna that is the huge part. I think it would be an entirely different story if it was another member of the Voyager cast, but the fact that it's B'Elanna there with the actors and telling that story, it makes it more powerful, I think.
Yeah.
Interesting. It definitely is more impactful when she comes around and helps him at the end, which is super cool.
Yeah. Oh, and also in that episode we got Kelly Waymeyer, who put Cutler on Enterprise too.
Kelly Waymeyer, yes. So she's so good. The whole episode is fantastic. And as I'm currently going through my first ever Stargate watch, it's also got Braytak, the Stargate dude. I can't remember his name.
Tony
Amendola. Yeah.
Amendola.
Yes. So love Braytak. No spoilers. No spoilers.
Okay. No spoilers.
Oh, and John Shuck is in that episode too as well.
Oh yeah, John Shuck is in that episode too.
I just remembered that. Yeah.
Another connected Trek veteran.
Yeah.
For both on the screen and off the screen. You can look that up if you want to figure out what that off the screen is. Okay, let's go to my number one underrated episode. He was married to Leonard Nimoy's second wife. Okay, here we go.
That's right, I have heard that.
I know so much about Star Trek. It is really scary. Okay, here's my number one pick. 5 words and a hashtag. Interesting exploration of whitewashing history. #regressives. And my pick is pretty dark too, Heather. My episode is from season 3, episode 6, Remember. And this is just a sad, powerful, quietly effective story about basically about Holocaust and the genocide that took place in the past of the Anarans they've completely whitewashed their history. They've erased it. They've pretended like it didn't happen, and that these people just moved away and couldn't take care of themselves and passed away. And it's another amazing B'Elanna episode. Roxanne Dawson's is just incredible in this one. And this is the episode where this species is on there on the ship, and one of the older women is putting their telepaths, and she's putting her memories into B'Elanna to recap what happened in their history so that something can be done about it, just to talk about it, just to make aware. And I'm telling you, this episode is another one that's super quiet. It's super simple. and it's easy to pass over and miss. But man, it hits so hard right now in our current times after all these vocally racist right-wing assholes, actually got 4 years as president on a platform of just hate and paranoia. It really, really stings to see an episode like this and see these people acting like, no, we're good people. We're helping them. Just going to relocate them. So great. Oh, Joe Menosky had a story credit on this one too, written by Lisa Kink, and it had Bruce Davison, who's Oscar nominee and amazing actor. So, Heather, what's your take on Remember?
I'm gonna have to go rewatch this.
I know. I know a lot of people don't. It's so underrated. There, fact. Patrick, how about you on Remember?
A lot of what you were saying rings true. I mean, like with the current political climate of the last several years, as I went in my rewatch a couple months ago, a lot of that was like, boy, this all sure sounds very familiar.
Yeah, it really it's unsettling when you're like, oh my God, this. When you watch this 15 years ago, it's like, wow, that's crazy that could happen. Now it's like, wow, okay, there's people who actually want to do that. Anyway, okay, let's go to our secondary systems.
Let's see what you can do with the secondary systems.
Heather, what just missed your list?
So I just have a couple shout outs. One was for Tim Russ as performer.
Love it.
Like I said, I think Tuvok is one of my favorite Vulcans, and he just brings so much to that role. And then the other one is for Kes as underrated character, because like I think there's so many people who just think of Kes as like Neelix's creepy girlfriend, but she's such an incredible character, and she has so much power and so much potential and just smarts, and doesn't get enough love. So
love it. Kes and Jennifer Lean, that's great. Patrick, any secondary systems for you?
Well, I've got quite a few. For production design, I've got, actually, I know we don't know if I were the hashtag for secondaries lab, I got one for this. 5-word see you at Warp 10, hashtag lizard babies. It's the class 2 shuttles, and the episode I picked from those obviously is Threshold, because I found out recently that that's episode where we first see those kinds of shuttles.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I had to get Threshold in there somewhere as my love for that as well.
Well done.
Let's see then for performer we got John Rhys Davies as Da Vinci. I love the episode concerning flight. I just find it a fun feel good episode to watch.
That's a great pick, John Rhys Davies. So good.
Then for the Dabo round, I got a couple connecting to the stuff about the holodeck. Janeway's Gothic Hollow novel. I know a lot of people razz on it, but I wanted to know how it ended. I found that one interesting. Got Persistence of Vision last time we saw it, and also the Borg kids. Again, I know a lot of people, they found annoyed by them, but the Haunting of Deck 12. I love that episode.
Love them. You're the first person I've ever met to want to see more of the Janeway Hollow novel. I love it. Great. All right, sorry, you had another one?
Well, for an underrated, also Haunting of Deck 12 again. I know a lot.
Yes,
I know a lot of people don't seem to pay attention to that one very much. Let's see. Then relating to the Borg kids, also again like Haunting of Deck 12. If you want to go for all of them, but then for each of them specifically, and those have been mentioned before on TrekRanks episode Imperfection.
Yeah, those are great. Awesome. All right, I just have a couple. My toughest cut, I actually was debating between Joe Menosky and another writer, because people know Joe Menosky. So there's another writer that no one ever remembers. I mentioned him earlier, Michael Taylor. He wrote a ton of Voyagers, Bride of Chaotica, story credit on Muse, Relativity, Someone to Watch Over Me, One Small Step, League of an Eye, Workforce. I mean, the guy is prolific, and he doesn't get enough credit for sure. I also had James Sloyan, the actor in Jetrel, who also played Jirok in The Defector. He's underrated performer. Character, I had Tau Celeste. I love her from a handful of episodes of Bajoran. And my special shout out, which I almost picked this, it's all the CGI in Voyager. You know what? It's really good, and it really stands the test of time, even in standard definition 25 years later. I'm telling you, the Voyager CGI is pretty damn good, from Species 8472 to Year of Hell's deck explosion. It's just and the graviton ellipse,
macrocosm.
They do a good job. They did a great job with that, and it really, really still stands this time. That doesn't mean I still don't want it in HD. I do. So okay, this was awesome. I love getting into these underrated topics. That was fantastic. But now it's time to get into our regeneration cycle, appropriate for Voyager, and go through some stats and recap our picks.
Computer, activate regeneration cycle. Alcoves beta and gamma.
Okay, Heather and Patrick are going to have you guys recap your picks. Heather.
Okay, round 5, production design, the bioneural gel packs from season 1, episode 15, learning curve. Round 4, the performer/creative is Jerry Taylor, and season 2, episode 25, resolutions. Round 3, the Dabo round, it is the use of the holodeck being more important to the Voyager crew as their connection to home.
Like that.
And it is season 1, episode 6, The Cloud. And round 4, character, Ensign Samantha Wilden, season 2, episode 21, Deadlock. And round 1, underrated episode, season 6, episode 14, Memorial.
Fantastic. So you had 2 from season 2 and 2 from season 1 and 1 from season 6. Patrick, break down your 5 again.
All right, for the number 5, for the production design, we got the Delta Flyer. And for that, I picked the episode Drive from season 7. For number 4, for the performer, I picked Martha Hackett as Seska, episode Worst Case Scenario from season 3. Dabo round, I picked The Humor of Voyager, and for the episodes, I picked Brida Chaotica and Tinker from season 5 and Tinker Pterodactyl Spy from season 6. Number 2, for character, I picked Chakotay, and then the episodes Distant Origin from season 3 and Shattered from season 7. And then for my number 1, the underrated episode overall, I picked Muse from season 6.
Love it. So breaking down, you had 2 from season 6, 2 from season 3, and 1 from season 7. And your bonus was season 5 and season 7. So this is interesting. So I'll go through my 5 and then I'll break down one stat that we have coming out, which is cool. My number 5 pick for production design element was Blood Fever was the episode, and I picked the secondary alternative uniforms throughout Voyager's run. My number 4 pick for creative was Joe Manoski. I picked season 3 episode Alter Ego to showcase his writing for Voyager. Number 3 was Think Tank from season 5, and I picked it across the board to showcase every category for that great underrated episode. And my number 2 was Maneuvers. Maj Kola was my character, and I just love him throughout season 2 and the 4 or 5 appearances he made. And my number 1 underrated episode was Remember from season 3. Super underrated. So underrated that Heather doesn't remember it. Go see it, Heather. Okay, so we had no duplicates and no episodes mentioned really more than once. So we really spread it around good. So this is interesting. In the season breakdown, widely considered to be the best season of Voyager, you can argue it, but usually considered season 4. Most people, the seven's first season would be the one that most people point to as the best season. It had no picks, which makes perfect sense in our underrated breakdown. Every other season had a pick. So season 5 had 1, season 7 had 1, season 1 had 2 picks. 3 picks each for season 2 and season 6, and season 3 led the way with 5 overall underrated picks. So that's kind of cool that season 4 didn't get any picks, which makes sense. All right, that was great. But as we do every week, we have been hit by a temporal distortion. So before we can depart, it's time to hear from you.
The temporal distortions are fracturing space-time throughout the ship. Cause?
Unknown.
Oh, we know the cause, Mr. Tuvok. It's all that amazing feedback that we continue to receive from our listeners here at TrekRanks. And this week's temporal distortion has sent us back to episode 117 and our top 5 epic comebacks, which was a really fun topic. Our favorite list we got was easily this one from Ben Nicholson at BenCareNow, BenKerNow. It's just brilliant. So here is his 5 picks for epic comebacks. Number 5, Cerritos is a handsome lady, hashtag take my breath away. And it's the motion picture montage in Crisis Point as a comeback. I love that. Number 4, Trek's Back to the Future, hashtag interphasic rift. It's the Defiant from In a Mirror Darkly, which I'm pretty sure I maybe picked as well. Is number 3. This one's amazing. Never Gonna Keep Me Down, hashtag original Lower Decks hero Sita Jaxa returning in Lower Decks. Number 2, previously on Star Trek Flashback, hashtag Talos Star Group intro. And that's from If Memory Serves and Discovery, which was awesome. And his number 1 is The Trouble with Tribbles equals hashtag more Trek, the letter campaign against the cancellation. TOS, epic comebacks. Awesome list. And then I got 2 great lists that were they were verbal. So I'm going to go through these quick. They were verbal comebacks. A lot of people like to someday we'll do verbal comebacks as a topic, but we'll tease that right now. We had Rich Masters at Masters Rich, just a couple of his lists. Tribble terrorized Tiberius Tender's takedown. Hashtag It's You I Take Lightly as an epic comeback from The Trouble with Tribbles, which of course is genius. And then he had God Goads Gold Garbed Guardian, hashtag Eat Any Good Books. And that is from TNG. Deja Q, another great comeback. Security Scorn suggests superpowered suicide, hashtag what must I do? Die, from Deja Q, the same as the other one. And then he had Detective Doubts Dealers Disruptor Defense. I'll kill him with what? And that is, of course, Odo and Quark in The Way of the Warrior. I love that. And then our friend Adam Uno, he also had Eat Any Good Books lately on his list. And he also had Kirk saying, It's You I Take Lightly. But his other 3 are worth highlighting. So he had Spock in Trek 2009. As I am only half human, your record remains untarnished. A great Vulcan comeback. Garrick in The Wire, especially The Lies. And one more epic comeback, Kirk and Imud. I am not programmed to respond in that area. I love this. This is great. We really need to do verbal comebacks at some point. So
that'd be a fun one.
That'll be a pre tease for that. So once again, those picks more than enough to clear ourselves from this week's temporal distortion. So as always, I want to thank everyone for all your great responses to the TrekRanks podcast. Keep your list coming to me at TrekRanks on Twitter so we can retweet them. But we also want to hear from you. So put together your own list of top 5 Voyager underrated picks or a list from any of our past shows. Call us at the Tricorder Transmissions at 609-512-5527. Or you can just record it and then send me a DM and we can link up that way. So hopefully we'll hear from you so you can be featured on the next episode of TrekRanks. And on the next episode of TrekRanks, I think we're going to go back to our abstract topic. So we have done a couple of kind of out there, just abstract 1. And we did abstract H. Was that the other one? Yeah. So we did 2 just weird abstract H, abstract 1. Just come up with something that hits you. So
Did you do abstract 3s?
These, yeah.
Oh yeah, did we do? I think we didn't call that.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, I did abstract 3.
Yeah,
You're right. So we've done 3. I can't even remember. Thank you. I told both Patrick and Heather I hadn't decided on what the next episode was going to be, and I was going to figure it out during this episode, which I'm doing right now, as you can tell. So our next topic is going to be abstract silence. Oh yeah. What does that even mean? Abstract silence. We're going to pick 5 moments or 5 things that you think make you think of Star Trek and silent. And this is it's going to be another weird one. So we're going to have fun with it. So Heather and Patrick, going to put you guys on the spot for abstract silence. Anything coming to your head, Heather?
I'm just gonna go with the first thing that popped in my head, which was like Patrick mentioned at the beginning of the episode about the Best of Both Worlds teaser. It's the silence after him saying Mr. Worf fire.
Love it.
To black.
I absolutely love it. Yeah. Why not? That makes perfect sense. Fantastic. Patrick, how about you? Silence.
Well, I know there are lots of times we see our characters floating in spacesuits, but since we're on a Voyager 1 go like with Day of Honor, Tom
Day of Honor. That's really good. That's perfect. Those are perfect. So I've got a couple I've been thinking of for if we ever did this topic. So we're gonna do it. We'll see who we get on that one. That's gonna be an interesting one to say the least.
Yeah.
All right. Huge thanks to Heather, Kirby, and Patrick Carlin. It was awesome having you guys on the show.
I was wondering if you could show me how to access these subspace communications logs.
And we're going to do that right now. Mr. Neelix, any final Trek subspace communications either one of you guys want to relay before we depart? Heather.
Never apologize for being nerdy.
And listen to Promenade Merchant podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Patrick, thanks for coming on, man. It's great to finally get you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a great time and wanted to do this for a while. So hope I can do it again sometime soon.
Really cool. Great picks. Appreciate you guys making the time to come on. And finally, I just want to thank everyone again for engaging with us here on episode 127 of the TrekRanks podcast. As always, I want to close by saying I'm looking forward to standing with you again here in this place where I belong.
Seven, how'd you do that?
I scanned the device. Its mechanism operates on a simple fractal regression.
You scanned it. That's cheating.
Cheating is often more efficient.
If you can't solve a puzzle, cheat. If you can't outthink a think tank, don't try.
Just want to remind everyone again that the entire TrekRanks catalog is available for you to download and listen to at TrekRanks.com and on your podcast player of choice. Our episodes never get carbon dated, so check out the topics you've missed and maybe just want to listen to again over at TrekRanks.com. And a reminder to check out our friends 5-Year Mission at 5yearmission.net. They're writing a song for every episode of Star Trek, and you won't believe how great their music is. They also have a podcast at the Trek Geeks Network, so seek them out. You won't regret it.
Captain's log, stardate 53896. B'Elanna Torres has requested permission to take the Delta Flyer and search for dilithium. Shining Voyager, far from home, far from the gleaming cities of Earth.
Headstrong B'Elanna Torres and young Harry Kim speed away from Voyager on the Delta Flyer in search of their treasures. She told me her story. And now I've told you.